Admiral, there have been roughly 150 attacks on U.S. troops in Iraq and Syria. Is the U.S. response working? Is the U.S. doing enough to protect its troops?
We'll continue to do what we have to do to protect our troops and our facilities. We are certainly mindful of the danger, and in these attacks over the weekends, now a small number, but a number nonetheless of U.S. troops were being evaluated for traumatic brain injury. That's a wound, and we take that seriously.
And the Houthis, they aren't stopping their attacks. So when the U.S. retaliates, how can that not be seen as escalatory? And how does this all end?
If you're trying to look, if you're in a scrap with somebody, and you can find a way to tie one or both of their hands behind their back, that's not de-escalating, or that's not escalating, that's de-escalating. That's taking ability away from the other party to inflict harm. And the strikes that we have conducted ashore in Yemen have degraded Houthi capabilities. As I've said earlier, it doesn't mean that they don't still have offensive capability available to them. Clearly they do, because they continue to use it. And as the president said, as long as they continue to make that choice, we have a choice too. We have a choice to keep defending our ships and our sailors and merchant traffic, and we have a choice, when we have the information available to us, to preempt their ability to conduct those attacks, and we'll continue to do that.
And there was a pretty stark statement from a senior Israeli official to ABC News saying that Israel's closer than ever to a war with Hezbollah and possibly a full regional war. Do you agree with that?
Everything the president has done since October 7th, everything has really been designed to keep this conflict from escalating and widening. And that's gonna be our focus.
I wanted to get your response to a comment from the EU Foreign Policy Chief, Joseph Borrell. He's meeting with other European Union foreign ministers in Brussels, and he said that the Israeli military operation is not working and that it is seeding hate for generations in Gaza. I wanted to get your response on what the White House thinks of it.
The Israelis themselves have talked about the progress that they've made against Hamas leadership. We believe that going after leadership is a useful approach when you're dealing with a terrorist network. It worked for us with Al-Qaeda. It worked for us with ISIS. I'll let them speak to their progress. We've been very careful not to armchair quarterback this thing and throw in place from the sideline. But they have made some progress against the network. They've made some progress against the network's ability to resource itself and the infrastructure, particularly underground infrastructure, that they continue to use. But as the Israelis have said themselves, that's going to be a fight that's going to take them some time. And as for the second part of that comment, I mean, look, every single life lost, innocent life lost, is a tragedy and should be mourned. And we have been very clear with our Israeli counterparts about the need to be more precise, more deliberate, more cautious. There have been too many civilians killed in this conflict, and the right number is 0. And we recognize that there could be long-term effects from that.
And Jay, and then you have the last question.
Thank you, John. Prime Minister Netanyahu rejected Hamas's conditions to end the war in exchange for releasing all of the hostages. Does President Biden support that decision?
The decision by
Prime Minister Netanyahu.
Again, I'd let the Prime Minister speak to his comments. We want to see all the hostages home, and we want to see Israel not have to face a threat next door like the one that they faced on the 7th of October.
I'm just asking if the president supports this decision to reject a proposal that would have freed all of the hostages, including, of course, the
I can't validate that proposal itself. I'm not in a position to confirm that proposal. I understand that. I'm not in a position to confirm that. What I can tell you is that the president supports Israel being able to defend itself. He supports getting all those hostages out. He supports, in order to do that, an additional humanitarian pause of some length that will allow those hostages to go to freedom safely and more aid to get in. And again, you need a pause in the fighting to be able to do that. We don't support, still today, some sort of general ceasefire.
And just on going back to the phone call between the president and the prime minister on Friday, we reported that the prime minister in that phone call had privately indicated that he was not ruling out the possibility of any Palestinian state in any form. Obviously, you're aware of what he has said in public over the last few days. My colleagues have referenced those statements. I guess I'm just wondering, as far as you're aware, is there any daylight between what the Prime Minister says in private versus in public on this matter?
That's a question for the Prime Minister and his office.
Last question.
So, if the U.S. aid is delayed further for Ukraine, is there a danger? Does the president worry that other European states might withdraw their support?
I would say that the president's mindful that other nations are watching what we do. Obviously, Mr. Putin's watching what we do, and other nations not involved in this conflict are watching what we do. I'm sure China's watching it too, President Xi. But our allies and our partners, yeah, they're watching closely what we end up doing here, because American leadership has been critical in supporting Ukraine. We have literally led the way, not only in the contributions, but in the coordination of contributions of other nations to get stuff into Ukraine. And so, yeah, I think it's entirely possible. We should expect that some of our allies and partners might have to make different decisions if they see American leadership falter here, or the United States pull back from supporting Ukraine. And that would have potentially disastrous consequences for Ukraine.
And has the president had any conversations with any of these European states?
Well, he just talked to Prime Minister Sunak today, and one of the topics was Ukraine. So